Okay, now that we've got our blog up to date, the next step is to install some security. So I've just logged in here. Just a couple of quick tips. As I said before, you need to look out for that number, and as you can see, when I've logged back in, there's one plugin that has an update, and it's this one. So all I have to do is click on Update Now, and it's updated and reactivated. And then if I click back on here, the number one's gone, so we'll just dismiss that one. So that was one thing, and the other thing is if you've got plugins that are deactivated and you don't plan on using them, then delete them. So I'll say yes. There's no point in having those extra files because anything on there that you're not using is a potentially another security hole, which we obviously don't want. So that's two, and there's another one. We'll just delete him. Right, now our next step is to add some security. So the first of a couple of plugins that I'm going to recommend is a plugin called Better WordPress Security. So all we need to do is type that in the search field, hit the button, and there it is, Better WP Security. So I'll just click the install now, and let's just pop this up here. Click OK, we want to install it, and then we want to activate the plugin. Now this one's really good. Some of the techniques it uses are what we would call security through obscurity. Now it's not considered a primary security method, it's more a secondary one, but it does make a difference when there's thousands of people out there doing things like trying to brute force login and assuming that the username is admin, because I think I mentioned before the default on a lot of WordPress installs, the default username is admin. So if you have that default username, it just makes it that little bit easier for somebody to break into your blog. So let's click on security, and the first thing it'll do is ask us if we want to create a database backup, so we can do that. And it's doing its thing. We'll just give it a second to finish. And it looks like it doesn't want to finish. Let me just refresh that. Okay, so it did. I had to reload the page, but it's created a database backup and emailed that to me. Now, more importantly, you should have backups anyway, and we'll get onto that later, but secure my site from basic attacks is important, so we'll click that one. So this is telling us what it's actually done and what is still a potential problem. And I think they've got no, they haven't got a colour code, but obviously green means good. Blue means it's, something that could be changed that would make it a bit more secure. Yellow is something that probably should be changed, and red is something that is a major potential problem. So what I'm going to do is just go through these tabs and show you the settings that I would set, and then you can make up your own mind whether you want to do the same. It won't change all of these, and I'll explain why as we go through. So the first one is user, change the admin username. Now at the moment it says, it'll tell us that we've got, it'll put this up here because the username is admin, and also the admin user ID, which is in the actual database. I would generally change both of those. So what I'm going to do is enter a new username in here, like that, and change it. Now this will change the username that you have to log in with, so I'm just going to write that down, and then I'll have to change my little login database. So it now says, congratulations, you do not have a username admin, which is good. And then the user ID, again, just click it. And it's logged us out because that username changed. So let me just log back in again. And instead of admin, we want that one. And we don't want to save that just now. Right, so we're back in here. Change the user ID. Congratulations, you do not have a user with ID 1. So these are a couple of things that we've just changed that make our installation different to a common WordPress installation. Next thing is away. I don't generally worry about this. You can enable this away mode, which basically means the admin user can't, or a user can't log in during certain hours. And it sort of makes sense. If you're not going to be around between midnight and 6 a.m, then you could do this now. I don't worry about that. Again, it's not a big deal. And if I'm travelling in a weird time zone, I might want to get in anyway. Banning. This is more important. Enable default banned list. And what this does is it actually adds a whole lot of IPs to our file and blocks those IPs. And these are well-known IPs that have been used to try to break into WordPress and other things. So we've got that. So it tells you here it's from hackrepair.com. So we've got that done. Enable banned users. You could, I would normally enable that, but I rarely use any of this stuff. Users and user agents. But you know, if I found in my logs that a particular username was trying to log in a lot, then I might put it in here or ban their host or whatever. Next is, and actually with this, as you'll see shortly, it does track failed logins and can automatically ban those people. Now the directory, this is another obscurity thing, but it's one that I generally don't change. If you change that directory from WP content and you've got images in your posts, it'll break all those images. And it's just, to me, just too much mucking around, particularly if you've got a big blog. So I wouldn't worry about doing that. You can get a backup from here. You can create the database backup whenever you want. You can enable scheduled backups. Now I don't do that because I use another plugin which we'll see later called Backup Buddy. And what I would normally do before I actually install this plugin, I would run Backup Buddy, take a backup of my site. Just in case something goes wrong. I've never had anything go wrong with this plugin, but just to be on the safe side, you should take a backup before you do this sort of stuff. Prefix, again, this is one that is a standard thing. It says your database is using the default table prefix WP_. You should change this. So let's change it. And it now has a much more obscure database prefix. And this is to make it harder for the automated tools to break into your site. The hide backend, etc. I don't. Again, I think it's a bit too much mucking about, and I don't worry about that one. It's not a big deal. Detect is important. You can enable 404 detection so that this detects anybody that's trying to get a lot of pages that don't exist, because quite often that's a scam, and you can have those emailed. Now I normally wouldn't, because it happens all the time. You can try it just to start off with, but I think you'll end up turning that off because you'll be sick of getting these emails. Error threshold, lockout period, don't worry about that too much. Blacklist a repeat offender, not on 404s, so we'll just scroll down. File change detection, this is important. Display file change admin warning and email notifications. And what that is if some of your main WordPress files change, it's going to let you know, and quite often the very first noticeable thing when somebody's broken into your website or done something, put some malware on there, one of the first things that's noticed is a change in files. So that one is quite important, the file change detection. Next we go to login. Now we do want to enable these limits. Maximum login attempts 5 per host and maximum per user 10. And then the period is 5 minutes. The lockout time period is 15 minutes. I would generally increase that to at least an hour, and blacklist repeat offenders with a threshold of 3. So if they get locked out 3 times, then it puts them in the blacklist and permanently locks them out. And email notifications, again, you might want to turn that off later, but initially it wouldn't hurt to have it there. You'll then get an idea of just how many people are out there trying to break into websites. SSL, I generally don't worry about this tab. and it is as a warning, your server must support SSL. A lot don't. I mean, you generally wouldn't have an SSL certificate. Tweaks, I enable just about everything. Protect files, so prevent public access to README. Now the reason for that is because it has the version that you're running, and you don't want to give away anything that you don't need to, but it also protects the config file and some other bits and pieces. Disable directory browsing, that'll just prevent people from looking in directories that have images and stuff. Filter request methods, yep. We do this because, again, these are things that should never be needed to be used on your website. Do note though that it says the feature is known to cause conflicts with some plugins and themes. Again, I haven't had any of those conflicts, but you know, it's something that you might need to check. The first thing we'll do after this is done is just go to the website, check that it's still there, and then if you see any weird issues, then you might have to temporarily disable the plugin to see if it's causing the issue. Filter suspicious query strings, so we definitely want to do that, and we'll save those changes. Then we come down to the header tweaks. Remove edit URI, removes the really simple discovery header. If you don't integrate your blog with external XML RPC services such as Flickr, then it's pretty much useless. So we'll do that. We can actually tick all of these and then just hit one of the buttons. Hide theme update notification from users who cannot update themes. Makes sense. Same with plugin notifications and update notifications. If it's somebody who just logs into your blog because they're an author or something like that, then they don't need to see those notifications. Enable strong password enforcement. That will force people to create a password that isn't just password or 1 2 3 4 5. Other tweaks, remove the login error messages. Again, login error messages sometimes give away information about your blog. And allow better WP security to write to these files, which you'll need. Reduce comment spam. Definitely want to do that. Remove write permissions from htaccess and WP config. That'll prevent anyone from changing those files, and htaccess is a common exploit, so we definitely want to do that. Display random version number. I generally don't do that because that is one thing that will conflict with another plugin that I'm going to show you, so we'll leave that one off. Prevent long URL strings, definitely, because they're more often than not something bad. And then turn off the file editor in the WordPress backend. That's something that I generally do, but you know, it's optional. But look, I've always found that the easy way is just to basically tick all of these boxes except for that one, display random version number. So let's save that. So that's all the tweaks, and then this is just where you can view the actual logs and see what's happening. You can clean out the database. At the moment there's nothing, no 404 errors, no bad login attempts, no lockouts, but that's where you would see those. So that's a quick run through of a really good security plugin that will, you know, add enough changes to and features to your WordPress blog that will make it much harder to break into than a standard old default WordPress blog. So there you have it. That's the Better WordPress Security plugin, and I didn't mention, but it is free.